Every 2 weeks, I go through and collect exotic ideas. The best ideas I feature here with a bit of criticism and review of my own. The first idea is getting special treatment because the reply they received in the comment section was rude. And I'm the only one allowed to call your ideas terrible and or stupid. So screw you, comment section guy. I actually liked the idea and I'm featuring it. In fact, where I normally go through Google Images to find what I'm looking for, just to spite you, I had this art custom made by an artist friend in Discord. This is the God's Core. The exotic perk is called Portable Reactor. Kills create a lingering solar wreath that weakens and burns enemies. I don't know why you would be so aggressive to somebody in the comment section when we're all just trying to have fun, but even ignoring my spite-fueled vengeance, I think this idea is actually quite shrewd and clever. It plays into the solar subclass for Titans excellently because Top Tree Hammer Strike causes both burn and weakness, but even without Top Tree, this can increase solar ability damage with Middle Tree or summon sunspots on Bottom Tree. My main criticism is that the perk is called Portable Reactor. That makes much more sense to be a chest piece rather than legs, but everything else works perfectly as a close-range menace. If it were paired with a glaive or a shotgun or a sword, simply put the Doom soundtrack on repeat and profit. The lesson here, kids, is don't talk crap about others' ideas in our comment section unless you're going to back it up with reasons why. But anyway, out of 5, creativity 3, balance 4, plausibility 5. This would be higher up on the list, but again, screw you, comment section guy. But they weren't the only ones that submitted ideas, of course. I have 4 more ideas from comments, Patreons, and Discord users, with the very last idea being the featured idea of the week, the idea that I personally saw and liked the most. But next is an idea for a drone launcher. This is the last dogfight. The exotic perk is called Unfair Fight. Shots fire a drone that seeks out and damages targets from the air, and the exotic perk is called Hunter Killer. Long press the reload button to target a single enemy for your drones to blow up into. This is from a Discord username literally just a burger. At first when I saw this, I flinched, because you can imagine how annoying this would be in PvP if a special ammo grenade launcher shot what is essentially a mini child of the old gods. And just, picture them now, but even more frequent. But upon closer inspection, I read that this is meant to be a heavy weapon, which is far better. Despite the creativity with this, the main reason this is so far down on my list is that it is an exact power creep to the colony. The only way to keep this from outperforming the colony at all places is to simply reduce the damage of the drones or the explosions, but then you run into the issue of why not just shoot the enemy with a normal grenade launcher? The only clever way to work around this, I believe, is to have the turrets apply some type of debuff to the target. This would make them more utility based, allowing the colony to at least get some time without getting completely squished, and better carving out its niche in general. Creativity, I'll give this a 3, balance 2, plausibility 3. The idea of having a mobile drone turret sort of thing isn't completely out of the ballpark, but it's something that I don't think Bungie's probably ever gonna do, surely because of annoyance factor. This next idea, whenever I make exotics, I always have to ask myself, is there a good reason to have this in the game? And frankly, Dalek Master Blaster's logic was just flawless. I can't argue with it, or I would just be wrong. I think that this is sort of like what the Prometheus lens was meant to be, especially since they are giving it actual burn effects with the next patch, but I still think there is a room for a weapon that shoots an AoE lingering damage spot. Dalek did leave the creativity entirely up to me, which actually reminds me, I've seen some people say like, hey, why don't you throw your ideas in here like you used to in the days gone past, but I don't know. I just felt like this would kind of be like me trying to steal the show, which is not the point. While you're commenting your idea below, just let me know your opinion of that discussion or that question. And while you're at it, maybe burn a 16th of a calorie and press the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't already. Also, we have a Patreon and a Discord if you'd like to submit your ideas there. This is the Purge Bringer. The exotic perk is called By Fire. Short range burst of flames, sticks to surfaces and cause damage over time. And the exotic perk is Be Burned. Shots deal more damage the closer you are to the enemy. I decided to stick true to the power fantasy of a flamethrower and simply just built the balance around that close range area control weapon, which I think is just fine. I mean, like I said, Prometheus lens is probably going to be a thing which is mid to long-ish range. I don't consider it a close range weapon, so this would be more like close to mid range. I think would be pretty good, like fusion rifle range, if that makes sense. Creativity 2, balance 4, plausibility 2. One of the few times creativity and plausibility will be this low because of the aforementioned Prometheus lens change that we're probably going to see. second to last idea before our featured idea. It has been in a lot of different exotic idea videos, but this I think was the best that it's ever been on exactly nailing down the mechanical and balance side of things. In older exotic videos, we've seen very similar ideas that were proposed, but those ideas tended to use the Titan's barricade. This is the no-fly zone. Its exotic perk is called Focused Overshield. Aiming down sights while Overshield is active focuses it to the front, increasing its durability. When your Overshield breaks, this creates a suppression effect around you. The barricade idea that we've used in videos past meant that you had to apply some type of restrictions to the user to keep it from being just ridiculously strong. But because this exotic uses overshield specifically, not only are we able to play into that with build crafting, with obviously like void overshields on Sentinel, but even something like turnabout on some of our newer weapons, it also means that you don't have to reduce this front-facing shield's power or the Titans using its power, because it requires you to give some type of sacrifice in order to get this thing going. This design could even ironically be applied to like the Icefall mantles, and I think it would still work pretty well. Creativity 3, we have seen this idea in the past. Balance 4, this is pretty smart. Plausibility 3, I don't think we're ever going to get a specifically front-facing shield in the game anytime soon. I think Overshield generically is going to be something we play with, but pretty interesting. And now on to our honorable mentions. These are ideas that have something that makes them stand out, but are rough enough on the edges that they need to be taken back to the drawing board and recreated, redesigned, re-engineered. For some reason, a lot of you shared the same brain cell and wanted to make an exotic that had some kind of portal gun mechanic. The first honorable mention is from Ethan Van, who had the idea of the Jaeger. It is a heavy sniper rifle with invisibility synergies built into it. I really liked the flavor of this idea in that it's meant to be closer to the true sniping experience of sitting patiently in the back of the map, waiting for your time to strike, and it even borrows flavors from both Patience and Time as well as No Land Beyond. Its main drawback, however, is that in PvE, this would almost never have a place outside of some kind of cheese, which we don't want. And in PvP, rarely is there going to be a time where intentionally sitting completely stationary is a good idea. Yet, if there were a situation for this to be used aggressively, it would be so very difficult to counter, it would probably be overpowered. But I like this idea, so I challenge all of you exotic idea creators. I will feature at least one idea in the next episode if it uses some type of invisibility, or if it has some way of making a sniper rifle body shot, like a one-shot body shot mechanic. If you can make that happen, I will include it in the next video if it's the best of the rest of your peers. Let me see what you can come up with. The second honorable mention here is from Madbro on our Patreon, who had the idea of a special ammo heavy machine gun, the XMG-88, which he says is actually borrowed from Battlefield 4. The idea was quite interesting as it played with mechanics I never thought to interact with before, and it took a heavy machine gun and decently balanced it around a special ammo economy. The primary issue with this is that it is too all over the board. It can't decide what it's going for outside of like the vague idea of heavy squad machine gun. But with a bit of tweaking, this could make it in, but for right now, I will just have to save it in a spot as a second honorable mention. And the last honorable mention on this list is an exotic bow called the Yeoman. Exotic bows will always have a soft spot in my heart because Bungie seems to struggle with finding a good way to balance them, and personally, I love bows. This idea also plays into gathering information, which is something I think more exotics should do, but this is again doing a bit too much. This weapon's design and balance is clearly being sacrificed for its flavor, but there's something there to work from. For our featured exotic this week, I found an idea that has been proposed in some capacity or another at least a dozen times, but this was the first one that I think did this idea in a way that makes some sense mechanically and lore-wise in the game. It balances risk-reward while offering unique build options. This is the Metamorphosis from Dolinator 9. The exotic perk is called Cranial Chrysalis. Precision kills spawn a friendly Lucent Moth that weakens targets, and the exotic perk is Explosive Nectar. Precision hits mark targets to nearby Lucent Moths. Mark targets killed by a moth spawn another. This idea was meant to be a heavy machine gun. And don't get me wrong, I agree, it probably should be, but then I found this SMG and it looks so sick. Like the lighting and the texture just looks like it looks so good. Ironically, I still think this would probably work as an SMG. We would just need to change the mod spawning to make it a little bit more inconsistent. Maybe after like 5 eliminations without a death, one would spawn. This weapon has a similar feel to Outbreak Perfected in that it is effectively like a modified version of Dragonfly, but it does something that is different in that it applies overshield. In fact, it would probably help this gun get a better niche for itself if it focused more on the overshield rather than the explosions, which I think would be very fun for specifically building into overshield Void related perks in synergy with Void 3.0. Creativity 5, balance 4, plausibility 4. Something like this or some type of exotic that gives you some type of overshield, I wouldn't be surprised if we see sometime in the future. Very smart, very interesting, very unique. Thank you everybody who submitted your ideas. Bless your faces and deuces.